this for whatever reason and emotion. Okay, so this year's recipient was born in northern England in a stone two-story, pretty modest house as I understand it, in a small mining village in Cumbria. Legend has it he was a small baby, 4 pounds, 4 ounces, and legend says there was a collapsed lung at birth. Not the easiest of starts. Adorable, right? Can anybody tell who that is? Because he pretty much looks the same. Okay, you'll get it soon because there's not been a lot of changes. Our recipient was the youngest of 4 siblings. Here's our little angel right here. Older brother Ronnie, sisters Irene and Yvonne, and was the son of Phyllis Isabel and James Henry. Okay, all right, that was pretty much your last chance because from age 6 on, I think, gives it away. He was a fair-haired, slightly built young boy with a cheeky little grin, I'm told. Educated in village schools, loved to play cricket and football, and apparently shoveled snow in the winter for a little extra pocket money. Who knew? His sisters remember him often packing his bags and saying he was running away, and for some reason it was always to China. But oddly enough, he would come back a few minutes later and say he'll just continue his trip after having afternoon tea and never really left for good. They also remember teaching him to knit and him going to school with knitting in his arms. They don't say he got beat up, but I suspect he did. When he was a little bit older, the family moved to Pontefract. Am I saying that correctly? Can't be, and I know I'll get scolded for that. Pontefract is a historic market town in Yorkshire. At 11 years old, he began attending the King's School, where I'm told that he studied hard, played chess, read and wrote poetry, as well as played rugby. A little bit later, he became a member of the Air Training Corps. I believe he's somewhere in there. Acted in school plays, most notably a play called Oh, What a Lovely Lady. Getting easier, right? At 18 years of age, he began attending the St. Thomas Hospital Medical School in London and interestingly and proudly was the first in his family to attend university. There at school, he learned to sail dinghies, performed in Christmas plays, wrote scripts, again played cricket and rugby. Here are some of his thespian talents being shown off. This is my favorite. Apparently, this was a play called Wiggly Little Sperms or something like that. And apparently, you can see who we're talking about right here. Almost typecast, one could say. And I understand still remembers some of the naughty little songs that they sang in that show. He was an excellent student with nearly perfect or perfect attendance, although there is a rumor going around that there was a drunken night once with a broken window involved and even an arrest, but because of the dedicated student he was able to get out of jail and attend the first lecture of the day the next morning. Okay. Most importantly, this handsome young man, at 18 years of age, met the love of his life, Meredith, and they were subsequently married in 1973. Now let me think about this. I'm not great with math. This is 2023, so that would be 50 years of marriage this year. Amazing. Okay. Yes, I agree. Pardon me? Yeah, so's the award. Yeah. SHO, beginning pediatric cardiology at the Royal Children's Hospital, Liverpool, from 1980 to 1981. Pediatric registrar at the Royal Hospital for Sick Kids in Edinburgh from 81 to 83. Senior registrar in Killingbeck Hospital in Leeds from 83 to 86. Still look the same. It's unbelievable, really. I first came in contact with Neil somewhere in this period when he was running the CAF program for 10 years at the Royal Hospital up in Glasgow. And he was already shaking the field up quite a bit. In the paper frequently, well-deservedly, for developing a number and perfecting and bringing to his region a number of new things at the time, which were balloon angioplasty, stent, even some work with pacemakers. Okay? It should never be forgotten by those of you who love the Gore device that they didn't start out as good as they were. And Neil actually did the first human implant after working with the Gore team with Larry Latson in Flagstaff for many years. Did the first implant. These are pictures from that first implant, which was 1999, I believe it was July 20th. This picture is fascinating. Here are some good friends and engineers from Gore: Warren Cartwright, Ed Shaw, Nitin Salunki, and if you look closely, you see a very young Evan Zahn, a much younger Larry Latson with lots of hair, okay, and even a young Shaq Qureshi. And the way that you know it's Shaq Qureshi is the minute this picture was taken, that happened. Okay? And that is so emblematic of Neil and Shaq's relationship, and I'm only sorry that Shaq can't be here today, because I know he would just love this. Neil was so integral to Gore, and they had such a great working relationship that he actually took a sabbatical off, I believe it was 2011 to 2012, and him and Meredith actually moved to Arizona, and you can see them here with some of their Gore associates and some of the dear friends that they made. And I can tell you, I put a few feelers out to Gore, get some photos, and they were so excited that their friend and colleague Neil Wilson was getting this award that they only wish that they could be here. And I do want to give a special shout out to Gore, who really helped us behind the scenes get Neil here. Much appreciated. Okay. Ultimately, Neil ended up in Oxford, as you've heard, at the John Radcliffe Hospital. That was from 2003 to 2013. And along the way, just happened to develop this little thing that's now changed the world of cardiology and neonatology. And I can tell you, spending 2 days in the PDA Symposium every year, there is rarely a talk where Neil and Jamie are not credited for their pioneering work with preemie PDA closure, which has really just changed the game completely. So along the way, Neil has probably met or stayed at your house or had a beer or a meal with most of the people in the audience. He's traveled the world extensively, made friends all around the world, mentored so many of us in so many different countries, all while having a really good time. I chose this particular sort of grouping of photos because as much as Neil has traveled and as many places he's lived, I've always really been and admired the special relationship that he's really kept with his UK colleagues. You see Mike Tynan here and John Thompson and others, and I think Neil has really been the bedrock of our UK colleagues and really introduced many of us to this wonderful group of physicians over there. Some more photos. I will take credit, by the way, for the napkin hat. That was something I did in college. I didn't realize when I introduced it to Shaq and Neil they'd be doing it well into their 60s and 70s, but I think it plays well for them. Eventually, Neil ended up in Colorado in 2013, and like every place else that he had ever been, it was more like joining a family than a program. You see him here with much of his cath lab staff wearing the traditional Neil Wilson something red hat with horns. I don't even know. Basically, Neil being Neil, very close relationships, of course, with Gareth and Jenny, who to me seem a lot more like Neil's children than Neil's colleagues. You'll notice something in this picture. You'll notice that from this picture to this picture, Neil had a dramatic change in his hairstyle. Okay? That's because in 2017, I apologize. Meredith told me I should mention this. I knew I wouldn't be able to get through it. So in 2017, Neil developed a cancer, bad cancer, metastatic, to the spinal column, nudging, according to the doctors, on his spinal cord. Went through a really brutal chemo and radiation therapy. I believe the phrase was Neil would tell people he was dodging coffins for many months. Meredith wanted me to mention, and I am happy to do so, a huge thanks to Dr. Tom Flagg, who had a huge role in having Neil sit here with us today. In typical Neil Wilson fashion, when the radiation was done, I'm told he took his melodeon and played it for any of the other patients who were in the waiting. Classic. And then, just like that, he was back with us. Most of you know that his great a clinician and mentor Neil is, there's few things he does better than meetings. I think a lot of us learned a lot of things from Neil. Much of that took place with his good friend Horst Seifert at CSI, as well as at, of course, our annual PICS meeting and Neil and Shaq's legendary nightmare cases. I think one of the greatest things that we've learned from Neil is how to show our complications. Neil schooled me at an early age that we weren't very good at that in the United States, and he was right. And he brought his unique brand of sort of wisdom, joking, kind of serious, made you feel bad, but then made you feel good to so many of our meetings, and the teaching from that, I think, is immense.
Well, it has often been said that good experience comes from bad decisions. Or wait a minute, or is it bad experience leads to good decisions? I think you get the idea. Mention to all of you in the wider web who are listening to these presentations, to appreciate that our 10 presenters today are showing cases, some of the aspects of which they may not be fantastically proud about, maybe decision-making wise or some technical maneuvering. So they are what we say in English, they're washing their dirty linen in public, and I want everybody out there to appreciate that.
And that's the point. Neil made us appreciate one another, not just when we're great, but when we're not so great. And for that, I think he deserves a huge round of applause. Neil, to all of our detriment, but to his benefit, is now retired. My understanding, and these pictures prove it, he enjoys entertaining friends. Some of you might recognize Dave Campbell, longtime surgeon from Colorado. Painting, fishing, boating, sounds like a rough life. Apparently he's in love with this garden, which looks pretty nice to me. Being Neil, I really can't describe this any other way. And spending a time with his 4 kids who are fairly spread out. What you're looking at are sons Duncan, Roger, and William, and daughter Alice. And from that brood, Neil and Miriam have been blessed with 6 grandchildren. Let me see if I get this right. We have Pixie 6, Mabel 4, Edward 11. Meredith, am I doing good? Got them right? All right. All right, hang on, there's so many, I gotta flip the page. We got Natalie 6, Nicholas 3, and Sophie 13. Okay. All right. My understanding, and one can only imagine the kind of grandfather Neil Wilson would make, and these kids are really lucky to have him around. And of course, Mary. I just want to read something that was sent to me last night when the secret started to slip out. And I just think it encapsulates the way so many of us feel about Neil. This was written by somebody several years ago because they thought that Neil was deserving of this award then, as much as he is now. We would like to nominate Professor Neil Wilson for the Achievement Award this year. Neil has epitomized the spirit of meetings such as PICS throughout my entire career. He has mentored many of us, both directly and from afar, with his wisdom and sensitivity. His reputation as an innovator precede him. Neil's persistence and work in the field of premature baby duct occlusion blazed the trail for the current trials in this area. Moreover, and more importantly, Neil is a phenomenal human being. His sensitivity and compassion towards his colleagues and trainees has provided encouragement, solace, and inspiration to so many of us over so many years. Neil's sense of fun and his energy during interventional meetings sets him apart as a moderator, facilitator, clinical discussion leader, and educator.
So here's just a little Christmas ditty.
And who else does this?
Go for it. Hopefully see you next year.
And with that, it is my great honor to present this award to Dr. Neil Wilson. Neil, come on up and say a few words.
Managers come up. Also, the PICS course directors, please come up here. PICS course directors and co-directors, all of you.